Hi, I'm Joan Kang Shin. Welcome to Our World's Professional Development Program. These videos will help teachers improve their classroom practice and help their students to get the most out of Our World. This video is about how to ensure student success through assessment. Like lesson planning, assessing students is an essential part of helping them learn. When done well, assessment highlights key learning objectives and reinforces students' understanding. As a result, it can build student confidence in the learning process, which in turn will help students learn. Most teachers are familiar with quizzes and tests that measure student learning or progress. These forms of assessment are often referred to as summative assessment. Summative assessments are formal by nature, and as the name implies, summarize the learning at the end of a unit, term, or school year. They are considered a final measure of student learning. Our world includes many kinds of summative assessment, such as unit quizzes, mastery tests, and final tests. In this video, however, we're going to look at a different kind of assessment: classroom-based or formative assessment. Formative assessment is also known as assessment for learning because it is embedded in instruction with the purpose of helping students to improve their learning in class. It is classroom-based assessment that is informal and ongoing. It is used to monitor students' learning and give them immediate feedback, as well as motivation through positive reinforcement. If teachers are skilled in formative assessment, they can adjust their instruction to help improve both teaching and learning. In this video, you will learn how to make formative assessment part of your classroom instruction and help your students reach success. You will also learn how easy it is to use the formative assessment that comes with Our World. The first step toward effective formative assessment is to have well-developed and concrete learning objectives. The learning objectives should express exactly what students are expected to be able to do by the end of a lesson. Formative assessment aligns the learning objectives with the activities in the lesson. You can develop your own lesson plan with concrete objectives, or you can use the Our World Lesson Planner. The Lesson Planner has fully developed lesson plans with concrete and measurable objectives. Let's look at an example. In the unit Fresh Food in Level 4, the grammar lesson has the following objectives. Students will talk about obligation with have to plus verb, answer questions using have to plus verb, and distinguish between have or has and has to and have to. Notice that the objectives are written with verbs that are concrete and observable, such as talk about, answer, and distinguish. Many teachers make the mistake of writing objectives with verbs like learn, understand, or know. However, these verbs are not observable or accessible. Think about it. How can you see if a student understands obligation? There is no way to assess understanding because it is not observable. But you can observe and assess if students can talk about obligation and answer questions using have to plus verb. In addition, this approach ensures students are using the language meaningfully. Having a concrete and observable verb is the mark of a well-written objective. If the objectives are stated as actions that are observable, then you will be able to assess students' ability to achieve them. Once the learning goals or objectives have been established, you want to develop formative assessment tasks that are clearly connected to the objectives. By designing appropriate assessment tasks, teachers can see their students' progress during the lesson. A good practice is to start with the desired outcomes and then plan instruction and activities that help your students achieve those desired outcomes. This practice is called backward design. This means you start with the desired outcome and then work backwards to design the activities that will ensure students successfully reach those outcomes. Using backward design helps you determine the most effective assessment tasks. The Our World Lesson Planner has done this work for you. It includes suggestions for formative assessment to help you monitor your students' progress in achieving the lesson objectives. These suggestions show up in two places. First, the lesson planner has a section called Formative Assessment at the end of each lesson. Here is one for the unit called My Classroom. In this example, the lesson objectives are that students will ask questions using what color, and how many. And students will identify, describe, and count classroom objects. Notice that in the formative assessment section, the lesson objectives have been restated as questions. Can students use what color, and how many to ask and answer questions? And can students use numbers and other words to describe classroom objects? These questions help you assess whether students have achieved the objective. This kind of questioning makes sure you connect the assessment to the objectives of each lesson. In addition to these formative assessment sections, the Our World Lesson Planner has quick checks, opportunities to check your students' ability to use the language in the lesson. In the same lesson, during the practice step, students are supposed to ask and answer the question, what color is it? The quick check in the lesson planner says, if students need more practice with color names, have them review the photo on page 3. Do this to confirm that students are comfortable with the language in the lesson. These quick checks are good examples of formative assessment. As you can see, formative assessment tasks are a great way to keep track of your students' progress. The more you use them, the more easily you will be able to adjust your lessons to ensure students' success. Another great way of keeping track of student progress is to maintain checklists that focus on students' use of key vocabulary, grammar structures, or language skills. Take a look at these examples. This is an individual student checklist for instructional objectives. This is an individual student checklist for keeping track of students' writing progress. This is a checklist of class progress for development of grammar used in speaking. These checklists can be used to chart both individual student progress as well as class performance. If you keep track of your class progress on an ongoing basis, you will know when you have to review certain language structures and spend more time to meet certain language objectives. Our World also provides rubrics for written work and projects to help you keep track of student progress. Take a look at these examples of project rubrics in levels 1 and 4. These rubrics are a checklist of what students need to have in their project for it to be correct and complete. You can use it to check on progress and give feedback while students are working. For example, in Level 1 for the unit on My Classroom, students make a counting book. What if a student doesn't have the right number of pictures on the paper? You could say, "Wow, your colors are great. This says 6 books. Let's count your pictures together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is it correct?" This gives the student a chance to self-correct before she completes the project for a grade. As the examples show, Checklists are another useful tool for formative assessment. These rubrics help you keep track of how successfully your students are meeting the lesson objectives. The last step to effective formative assessment is encouraging student involvement in the assessment process. Even young learners are able to assess themselves as well as their peers and become aware of the learning process. This awareness helps them develop metacognitive skills, which can help improve their overall performance. Involving students in the assessment process also helps them to be more independent learners and take responsibility for their learning. One way to involve students in assessment is to use peer feedback. This will help students think about how to improve each other's work as well as their own before turning in their final product for a grade. In upper levels, students can be encouraged to share their written assignments with each other. For example, in the unit on fresh food in Level 4, students write an opinion paragraph on food from supermarkets and food from local farms. The lesson planner suggests a small group activity in which students give feedback on each other's paragraph. The teacher writes sentence starters on the board to help them give useful feedback. One thing I like about your writing is, a question I have is, my favorite part is, one thing I don't understand is. This type of guided peer assessment can help students improve their writing before turning their paper in for a formal assessment. Young learners should also learn how to self-assess. As a first step, start each unit by pointing out what your students will be able to do at the end of the unit. Our World lists the objectives in each unit opener. Take a look at the unit on My Classroom. It states, in this unit, I will name classroom objects, count classroom objects, and name colors of objects. Notice that the unit objectives are written from the point of view of the student by using I will. As part of the introduction to the unit, it is a good idea to go over the unit objectives with students so they will know what they will be expected to do. At the end of the unit, there is always a series of Now I Can statements that you can go over with students. Now I can name classroom objects, count classroom objects, and name colors of objects. By doing this, your learners will know what they have accomplished and what they still need to work on. Assessment is an essential part of the learning process. It highlights key learning objectives, reinforces understanding, and motivates learning behavior. Formative assessment should be an integral part of classroom instruction. For effective formative assessment, remember to start with concrete objectives. Connect the assessment tasks to the objectives. Use rubrics to keep track of student progress and involve students in the assessment process. The Our World Lesson Planner will give you plenty of activities and suggestions for using formative assessment effectively and helping students achieve objectives. You can also use the lesson planner as a model for your own customized assessments, since you know your learners better than anyone else. The more comfortable you become using different assessment tasks to chart progress, give meaningful feedback, and adjust instruction to suit learner needs, the more spontaneous and creative you will be in using formative assessment to help your young learners succeed.
This is our world. Everybody's got a song to sing. Each boy and girl. This is our world.